Senate will come to order. The Sergeant at Arms will close the doors. Members will go to their seats. Members and guests of the gallery will please silence all electronic devices. Leading the Senate in prayer is Senator Ted Alexander of Cleveland County. All members and guests in the gallery will please stand.
Thank you. In Psalm 102, verses 18 and 19, this shall be written for the generation to come, and the people which shall be created shall praise the Lord. For he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary. From heaven did the Lord behold the earth. Lord, we just praise you that we can rejoice in the Lord always. We rejoice in this good day too. We're created by you in your image, and we rejoice in the ability to live our lives in service to you. We now lift up the families of Paul Coble in the loss of his mother, and Senator Jarvis in the loss of his stepfather, and others who have had similar losses. And for those, Lord, affected by disasters, both at home in Ohio and abroad in Turkey and Syria, we pray, Lord, that you never let us take for granted the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks, and years that you've granted us. And I pray this by the grace of your salvation through Jesus Christ, whose name I pray. Amen.
Senator Berger is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. The journal for February 15th, 2023 has been examined and is found to be correct. I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal and that it stand approved as written.
Without objection, the journal for February 15th, 2023 stands approved as written. Leaves of absence are requested and without objection are granted for Senators Jarvis, Smith, and Salvador. The one courtesy of the gallery, upon the motion of Senator Brent Jackson of Sampson County, the chair is happy to extend courtesies to the 4th grade of Clement Elementary School from Autryville, North Carolina, and their teachers, Brittany Knowles and Lindsay Moore. Please stand and be recognized. We're on to our calendar. First on our calendar, Senate Bill 41. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 41 guarantees Second Amendment freedom and protections.
Senator Britt is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the chamber, Senate Bill 41 takes two pieces of legislation that we voted out of this chamber last session and the session before and combined those into the one bill. What those pieces of legislation do, one deals with the archaic pistol purchase permit that adds the requirement that a sheriff can deny someone the right to purchase a handgun if there's an issue with their moral character. That moral character definition is not a detailed definition that is in statute. It is something that is left for an arbitrary determination by the sheriff. The Sheriff's Association does support the pistol purchase permit repeal. What this would mean actually, however, is that there would also be no federal background check on a person-to-person sale. The majority of the sales that do take place in this state, though, are sales through a licensed FFL dealer. However, if you were to purchase something on Guns List or anywhere else out of state, federal law already prohibits those person-to-person sales from and transactions from another state without a federal background check. So any purchases from other states, you would still have to get that NICS check. Another part of this bill deals with the protection of religious places. Back in 1995, when the law changed on carrying concealed weapons, you were allowed to carry and conceal within a church that is solely private property that is not connected with a school. We have many schools in many of our districts that are attached to churches. What this bill says is that during non-school hours, when no extracurricular activity or other school activity is going on, that congregation has the right to protect their parishioners by allowing their security team, if they choose to, and this is again, if they choose to on their private property, to allow folks to conceal carry within those churches, something that right now would be a felony if they were to do. The other part of this bill is a safe storage provision. This is something that Senator Hayden passed out of the House last session. It was towards the end of the session, so we didn't get to move it here in the Senate, but it's something that he worked on with Department of Public Safety, Department of Health and Human Services, and Wildlife. What this safe storage provision does is all voluntary, but is an education program that also includes links to mental health resources and hunter education resources. No opposition, again, other than to the one provision of the pistol purchase permit repeal bill. Again, there will be some arguments made that we are making the community unsafe. However, again, these pistol purchase permits that we're repealing for the private sales and public sales, the ones for private sales is a very, very, very small percentage of our community. The ones that are the public sales through FFLs, there's a very thorough NICS background check where mental health and all that goes into the NICS check. Any convictions go into the NICS check. So again, commend the bills to you and available for any questions.
Before we proceed, let the record reflect that Senator Salvador is now in the chamber. Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Marcus, for what purpose do you rise?
To debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I hope that all of us in this chamber share the goal of keeping North Carolinians safe while also enabling responsible citizens to exercise their Second Amendment rights to purchase firearms. I know I do. One of our very best tools to do that is the background check. The public overwhelmingly supports background checks on all gun sales. This includes gun owners who agree. A recent survey in North Carolina, in fact, showed that 90% of people support universal background checks. And the pistol purchase permit system has been that safeguard in North Carolina for decades. We've required a permit on all handgun sales, regardless of where you buy it, for good reason. That permit system is thorough. It allows sheriffs to do a careful check to ensure that people who are likely to use a firearm either on themselves or on innocent victims cannot legally buy a handgun. And it's a mistake to do what this bill does, which is to throw out that protection completely. In North Carolina, we don't require purchase permits for all firearm sales, only handguns, not AR-15s and other long guns. That's an issue I believe we should also address, but at least we have had that safeguard for handguns, and I believe it has averted countless tragedies. But if this bill becomes law, it will carve out a huge new exception, and it will take North Carolina in a dangerous new direction. So let's be clear. Senate Bill 41 eliminates the only background check requirement for anyone who buys a handgun from a non-FFL licensed dealer. And that's a lot of people. Unlicensed sellers who advertise either online or sell at gun shows or meet up in a parking lot for a private sale won't be required and won't even actually be able to ask for a permit anymore to see if a buyer has passed a background check. Private unlicensed gun sales are very common in North Carolina. The private gun market is hot. It's only getting more and more popular. Each year, unlicensed sellers post an average of, I looked it up, 1.6 million ads on armslist.com. That's just one website. And right now, unlicensed sellers in North Carolina on those sites and elsewhere overwhelmingly follow the permit requirement. But again, if this bill becomes law, that safeguard will be gone, and they will start selling blind to buyers that they know nothing about. No questions asked. So picture this. A private gun owner posts an ad to sell his Glock 19 pistol. He meets a buyer about whom he knows nothing in a parking lot. They trade cash for the gun, no questions asked. So he doesn't know that the buyer, who is now walking away with the Glock, has multiple charges of threatening his ex-wife, a history of mental health crises, and a pending domestic violence charge. If Senate Bill 41 becomes law, this scenario, which I find worrisome, will become entirely legal and much more common. And it's just one example of the loophole created by this bill. Stormy Engel, remember her? The mom who came to the General Assembly to tell you about her adult son who has bipolar disorder and how grateful she is that the background check run by the sheriffs have stopped him from buying a weapon. Now, some folks say that the pistol purchase permit system, we can just forget about it and rely on NICS, the federal NICS program. But let's be clear, first, private sellers, like the one in my scenario, don't use NICS. That's for federally licensed sellers. NICS doesn't come into play, and it's not a requirement for private sales. So it doesn't offer any protection against this giant loophole. And by the way, while we're talking about NICS, which the bill sponsors say is sufficient, it's not. First of all, again, doesn't apply to private sales. Second, even when a NICS check is required for the federal or for the FFLs, it misses some very important things. NICS does not offer the same level of protection that the current permit system does. The current permit system is not redundant, it's not archaic, and it is in fact better than NICS. Let me be specific. NICS does not disqualify buyers who have pending serious criminal charges or buyers who have been involuntarily committed for mental health concerns, buyers whose family members have a pending complaint against them for a domestic violence protection order, buyers who have repeated domestic disturbances at their home, and importantly, please listen, it does not disqualify buyers who have convictions for assault-based misdemeanor crimes that are associated with domestic violence, like assault on a female and assault on a child under 12. The North Carolina law that we have had in place for decades allows sheriffs to find those flags and use their discretion to deny a pistol purchase permit on these bases, providing stronger protection for North Carolinians than what the federal law and NICS provides. We shouldn't wipe out those protections. And we know that NICS isn't good enough because each year some permit applicants pass the NICS check but fail the more in-depth sheriff background check. I asked the bill sponsor in committee if he knows how many times that happens every year. He doesn't know. He wasn't able to answer that question. I would think we would want to know the answer. I would like the answer to be 0. The bill sponsors also say, well, criminals don't apply for permits. They don't even try to buy guns legally. Well, yes, they do. And they get stopped by our current system all the time. The permit system doesn't stop everyone, we know that, but it catches a lot. And we need to strengthen the safeguards, not eliminate them. So we're happy to work with you on the process problems with the permit, the backlogs, the 5-year time frame. Some of you are upset about the kind of paper that the permit is printed on, apparently. We can work on all those things. We're happy to strengthen it and make it a better program, but we shouldn't eliminate it. I submit to you that Senate Bill 41 is the antithesis of common sense gun reform. It's a relinquishment of our job to protect North Carolinians from violence. It's an insult to victims of gun violence, to all the people in our state who are working to reduce suicide rates, and to all the people who have been asking us as lawmakers to work on a bipartisan basis to reduce gun violence, not make us more vulnerable to it, because we are tired of living this way with the constant threat of gun violence and politicians doing nothing about it. Innocent people are routinely killed by gun violence, and this bill will make that more likely. It's a dangerous, open invitation to anyone in North Carolina who cannot pass the current background check system to easily and now legally buy a handgun. Why in the world would we want to invite that kind of danger into our state? I urge you to vote no.
Senator Britt, for what purpose do you rise?
Would Senator Marcus yield for a question?
Sure.
Senator Marcus, could you point me to the bill number that you filed this session that deals with the gun violence issue in our communities?
We're working on it. I'd be happy to have you as a co-sponsor on that bill when it's ready.
But there's not one been filed yet?
Not yet. Nope, stuck in drafting.
Okay. What about the bill that you ran last session? Did you run a bill last
I did not run a bill last session.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Marcus.
Okay.
Senator Mayfield, for what purpose do you rise?
Speak on the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Yesterday, I asked what problem the pistol purchase permit portion of this bill, I challenge you to say that 5 times real fast, is trying to solve, and I got 3 answers. The first is that there were some sheriffs who were not acting on the applications in a timely manner. Second, that because of that delay, some people who are seeking firearms for personal protection might not be able to acquire them. And third, that the local level of review did not add anything meaningful to the existing federal background check system. As to the first 2 reasons, if there are real concerns, there are different and better ways to address them apart from eliminating the entire pistol permit purchase system. We could, for instance, make provisions to speed up applications for domestic violence victims and other vulnerable people seeking to acquire firearms for personal protection. I suggest to you that this bill has nothing to do with delay or concerns about people not being able to acquire firearms in a timely manner. Rather, this bill is pushing the national narrative that the Second Amendment is supreme and cannot be limited in any way. But we all know, or we should know, that no constitutional right, even the second one, can stand alone without any limitation. Every constitutional right can be limited based on a compelling government interest in protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Given the ever-increasing gun violence in all corners of our communities, now is not the time to step back from sensible gun regulation that works. In my community, the pistol permit system has worked the way it's supposed to, demonstrating an appropriate balance between the guaranteed constitutional right and providing for public safety. Last year, there were over 2,700 applications for pistol purchase permits, and the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department granted all but 63 of them. Only 2% were denied. The reasons for those denials indicate how incredibly important the local review is, and that the federal background check system is not sufficient to catch everyone. The federal database is only as good as the data in it, and local law enforcement can do a much more thorough check from local sources. Of the 63 applications denied in Buncombe County, only 9 were denied because they were flagged in the federal database. 9 out of 63. The other denials included a fugitive from justice, someone who was in the United States unlawfully, 7 were on active probation, 8 had domestic violence convictions or protective orders in place, 16 had been determined to be mentally ill or been involuntarily committed, and 17 had been convicted of a felony. The pistol permit requirement prevented possibly over 40 violent and mentally unstable people from legally purchasing a handgun in my community last year. Now, that's not many, but that's kind of the point. This permitting requirement is not onerous, and it does not unduly infringe on anyone's right to purchase a firearm. What it does do is help keep our communities a little bit safer by keeping a few more people who are not legally allowed to have guns from obtaining them. And of course, it just takes one person with a gun to shatter dozens of lives. If you want people who have violent backgrounds and who are mentally unstable to have easier access to guns, then please, by all means, vote for this bill. But if you instead prioritize the safety of domestic violence survivors, workplaces, places of worship, and schools, I ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Marcus, what purpose do you rise?
To offer an amendment.
Send forward your amendment. Amendment number 1, clerk will read.
Senator Marcus moves to amend the bill.
Thank you. In the interest of trying to improve this bill, which I believe is dangerous for the reasons I talked about and my colleague Senator Mayfield just spoke about, and it looks like it's likely to pass, unfortunately, I would like to offer this amendment. It would close the loophole for private sales by keeping the pistol purchase permit system in place for private sales so that there will be a background check for those handgun sales. I ask for your support.
Senator Britt, for what purpose do you rise?
I move that Amendment 1 lie upon the table.
Second.
Senator Britt offered a motion to table amendment number 1. It was seconded by Senator Heiss. So Senator Britt moves that it lie upon the table, seconded by Senator Heiss. It's a non-debatable motion, and we'll go straight to a vote. The question before the body is the motion to table amendment number 1 to Senate Bill 41. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. (29) having voted in the affirmative, 19 in the negative. Amendment number 1 to Senate Bill 41 will lie upon the table. Is there further discussion or debate on Senate Bill 41? Senator Murdoch, for what purpose do you rise?
To speak on the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We all deserve the freedom to live in safe, welcoming communities. Going to school, taking a dance class, shopping for groceries, doing your job, or as we saw right here in Wake County, simply running on a greenway should not be a death sentence. We lose far too many North Carolinians to gun violence each year. On average, 1,470 North Carolinians die by guns each and every year, or 1 North Carolinian every 6 hours. 63% of suicides in North Carolina were from guns. Private and online gun purchases go unchecked. Anyone can buy a gun from a private seller without a background check. In North Carolina, you can buy an AR-15 online right now from a private seller for less than $600. Mr. President, for that reason, I would like to send forth an amendment.
Send forward.
And that should be S41 ACE-5.
Do you have it? Amendment number 2, clerk will read.
Senator Murdoch moves to amend the bill.
You have the floor to explain the amendment.
The U.S. has had 67 mass shootings since January 1, and it shows no signs of slowing down. North Carolinians agree that they want safer communities. 90% support universal background checks. This amendment will put universal background checks in place. Nationally, 45% of gun owners who acquired a gun online in the past 2 years did so without any background check. I provide this amendment to the body.
Is there further discussion or debate on amendment number 2 to Senate Bill 41? Senator Daniel, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I move that Amendment 2 do lie upon the table.
Second.
Senator Daniel moves that amendment number 2 do lie upon the table, seconded by Senator Heiss. This is a non-debatable motion and will go straight to a vote. The question before the body is the motion to table amendment number 2 to Senate Bill 41. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Senator Britt is aye. 29 have been voted in the affirmative, 19 in the negative. Amendment number 2 to Senate Bill 41 will lie upon the table. Is there further discussion or debate on Senate Bill 41?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Murdoch, you are recognized.
We should all be able to agree that safe storage measures for guns are common sense. I grew up in a home with a gun where my dad owned that gun to protect our family home. As a child, I never knew where that gun was. Most school shooters get those guns from the very home that they live in. The 6-year-old that brought a gun to school in Newport News brought that gun from home. Mr. President, I would like to send forth an amendment to provide more resources for safe storage.
Send forward your amendment. Amendment number 3 to Senate Bill 41. Clerk will read.
Senator Murdoch moves to amend the bill.
You have the floor to explain your amendment.
Mr. President, this amendment provides additional resources and measures for safe storage. I present this amendment to the body today.
Senator Heiss, for what purpose do you rise?
To move that Amendment 3 do lie upon the table.
Second.
Senator Heiss moves that amendment number 3 to Senate Bill 41 do lie upon the table, seconded by Senator Daniel. This is a non-debatable motion and will go straight to a vote. The question before the body is the motion to table amendment number 3 to Senate Bill 41. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed, no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. 29 have been voted in the affirmative, 19 in the negative. Amendment number 3 to Senate Bill 41 will lie upon the table. Is there further discussion or debate? Senator Murdoch.
Thank you. Just some final remarks on the bill, Mr. President.
You have the floor.
We have proposed ways to close loopholes, to keep assault weapons out of the hands of the wrong people. That was rejected. Today, we propose universal background checks, a measure with only over 90% of support from the general public. That was also just rejected. We've asked for a clean bill that provides funding for safe storage and gun safety awareness funding. Many of my colleagues and my caucus signed on to that bill. I did too, thinking finally, one small thing that we can get done to save lives. But no, politics got in the way. We're also in the middle of Black History Month. As a proud daughter of the South, I must acknowledge that this bill is about making our communities less safe and has absolutely nothing to do with racial equality. It will, in fact, make Black communities less safe. There are a host of things that our body can do to rectify what my ancestors endured during the Jim Crow era, and this bill has nothing to do with working to achieve that progress. We can't solve the gun crisis today. My colleagues and the people here today understand that, but we can set forth ambitious strategy to undo the laws that get in the way of common sense gun reform. But that's not, in fact, what we're going to do here today, unfortunately. Thank you.
Senator Chaudhary, for what purpose do you rise?
Offer an amendment, Mr. President.
Send forward your amendment.
It should be on the dashboard. I'll explain the amendment, Mr. President.
Amendment number 4, clerk will read.
Senator Chaudhary moves to amend the bill.
You have the floor to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. During this week, we've heard a lot about the need for passing common sense gun reform without infringing on our Second Amendment rights. The most bipartisan solution on addressing gun violence is passing red flag laws. Here's what red flag laws do. It allows law enforcement, family members, or household members to petition a court to take away someone's firearms for up to a year if they feel that person is a threat to themselves or others. 19 states in the District of Columbia, including 2 Republican-controlled states, Florida, which passed the red flag law after the Parkland shooting that was now 5 years ago, in Indiana. Last year, United States Senator Tom Tillis was part of a bipartisan Senate deal on gun reform that included a provision to push states to set up red flag laws. In our state, 3 out of 4 voters support red flag laws. In fact, 59% of the voters say they strongly support this proposal, and an overwhelming majority of Republicans and gun owners express support for red flag laws too. The evidence is clear that red flag laws work. In Florida, judges have used a red flag law to act more than 8,000 times over the past 4 years, including a dad who threatened to shoot someone at his son's school. In Indiana, researchers found that 1 life was saved from suicide for every 10 firearm removals. In Indiana, the red flag law showed to reduce suicide rates by 7.5%. Red flag laws have bipartisan support, including overwhelming support by Republicans. Red flag laws work, and most importantly, red flags laws save lives while protecting the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans. I urge you to support this amendment.
Senator Heiss, for what purpose do you rise?
I move that Amendment 4 do lie upon the table.
Second.
Senator Heiss moves that amendment number 4 to Senate Bill 41 do lie upon the table. That was seconded by Senator Daniel. This is a non-debatable motion, and we'll go straight to a vote. The question before the body is the motion to table amendment number 4 to Senate Bill 41. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting. The clerk will record the vote. "29 having voted in the affirmative, 19 in the negative. Amendment number 4 to Senate Bill 41 will lie upon the table. Is there further discussion or debate on Senate Bill 41? Senator Chaudhary, for what purpose do you rise?
Speak on the bill, Mr. President.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, last October, tragedy came crashing down on Raleigh, the same as it has in city after city, town after town, all throughout the United States. 5 people lost their lives that night in a quiet neighborhood not far from here. Their ages ranged from 16 to 52, and they were more than 1,400 North Carolinians who die by guns every year. As we've heard already, the bill before us would open up a massive and dangerous loophole in our state. Under this bill, a buyer, someone who's been convicted of domestic violence, someone who is a felon, can go on their cell phone within a few clicks, find a semi-automatic pistol, meet their seller at a Walmart parking lot, pay cash, and then walk into a school full of children or mall full of shoppers. With this bill, we're setting ourselves up for the next Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland. We've seen time and time again what easy access to guns in the hands of the wrong person can do. We know the statistics. Domestic violence victims are 5 times more likely to be killed when their abuser has access to a gun. Guns are now the leading cause of death for children under the age of 18. And in North Carolina, someone dies at the hand of a gun every 6 hours. This week, we've heard about the need for common sense gun reform. Yet, the governing majority just voted down 4 common sense gun reform measures: closing the loopholes to domestic abusers and felons, requiring universal background check that would generally just take a few minutes, putting in place a red flag law, and making sure that guns are stored with the lock in place. This should not be a partisan issue. These proposals have the support of an overwhelming majority of our citizens, including a majority of Republicans and gun owners. And yet the governing majority is intent on making it easier to obtain a gun and rejecting common sense safety precautions supported by North Carolinians. Every member in this chamber today supports the Second Amendment, and Second Amendment rights go hand in hand with keeping our guns out of the hands of dangerous people. We all deserve the freedom to live in safe, welcoming communities. Going to school, shopping for groceries, doing your job, and running on the Greenway should not be a death sentence. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this bill in order to protect our communities, our children, and vulnerable individuals from harm. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, the question before the Senate is the passage of Senate Bill 41 on its second reading. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. 5 seconds will be allowed for voting, and the clerk will record the vote. Have been voted in the affirmative, 18 in the negative. Senate Bill 41 passes its second reading and without objection will be read a third time.
The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
Is there further discussion or debate? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 41 on its third reading will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 41 passes its third reading and will be sent to the House.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Robinson, for what purpose you rise?
Change my vote.
Okay. Senator Robinson will be a no.
A no.
So the vote will reflect 29 ayes and 19 nays. Notices and announcement. Are there any notices or announcements?
Mr. President.
Senator Woodard, for what purpose you rise?
To present a senatorial statement.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise this morning to congratulate and celebrate the North Carolina Central University Eagles football team, the 2022 HBCU national champions. And I'm grateful for so many colleagues who came to visit with the team yesterday when they were here in our chamber. You know, in North Carolina, we kind of get used to national championships from the ACC, the Sun Belt, and a few other conferences. But as the home to more HBCUs than any other state in the nation, I think this is certainly a great point of pride for North Carolina. I will not read the senatorial statement. I think we're all eager to get home, but I hope you will take a few minutes to look at the accomplishments of this great football team. I want to focus, though, for just a minute on the off-the-field activities of these fine young men who represent North Carolina Central University. Their team GPA is 3.0. And I got to tell you, when I played football, I did not maintain a 3.0 by any measure. And as Senator Blue, Senator Chaudhry, and Senator Muhammad can tell us as North Carolina Central grads, the university's motto is truth and service. And these young men continue to provide service not just to the Durham community, but all across the state. In the last 2 weeks, the football team, each member of the football team, hand-wrote 100 postcards to children in our hospitals across the state. When you think about that, that's over 5,000 children in our hospitals who got a get well card handwritten by a college football player. That truly is service. So if you did get a chance to visit with our great football team yesterday, don't worry, they'll be back next year. Because as Representative Jeffers said on the floor of the House yesterday, champions don't brag, they repeat. Mr. President, I would ask that the senatorial statement be spread upon the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. My daughter is a Central grad as well from the law school, and that was a big win. They were underdogs, if I'm not mistaken. They were facing a pretty big team. So that's right. So that was a huge win. Thank you for that. Senator Muhammad, well, for what purpose you rise?
To speak on a senatorial statement as well, Mr. President.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you is a senatorial statement honoring our 911 telecommunication workers, and I want to take a moment to honor their incredible service, especially on their 55th anniversary today. These critical citizens are the unsung heroes of our communities. They work tirelessly to ensure the safety and well-being of all our people across our great state. When we think of emergency responders, we often think of our police officers, our firefighters, and our EMTs. But let us not forget that our 911 operators are the first line of defense in an emergency situation. Yet they are not classified as first responders and too often do not receive the recognition they truly deserve. 911 operators often work long and difficult hours, dealing with traumatic and emotionally charged situations on a daily basis. And despite these challenges, they remain calm, steadfast, and committed to their duty and to their communities. Their work may often go unnoticed, but they are an essential part of our day-to-day lives. They are the ones who ensure that emergency response team arrive as soon as possible, efficiently, and potentially saving countless lives every single day. So today, please join me in taking a moment to honor and thank these extraordinary individuals on their invaluable service. Every single day, they are dedicated to our communities, and we owe them a debt of gratitude for their tireless dedication to keeping each of us, our communities, and our families safe. And Mr. President, if I may, today a number of our 911 operators are here today in the gallery, so if we could honor them. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Please stand and be recognized. Senator Alexander, for what purpose do you rise?
Point of personal privilege for a senatorial statement, Mr. President.
You have the floor.
Fellow members, I rise to offer a statement for a very much beloved individual from Cherryville who recently passed away. He was former mayor of Cherryville for 10 years. He was active, and I won't read the entire thing here, but he was active in basically every good facet of life in Cherryville and Gaston County. He was a faithful member of the First United Methodist Church of Cherryville, active member of the Cherryville Masonic Lodge, and also with the Battle of Kings Mountain Sons of the American Revolution, and was the North Carolina State University Wolfpack Club. He was also awarded the state's highest honor of the Longleaf Pine in 2021 and inducted into the Cherryville Sports Hall of Fame. I will say that as I served as mayor of Shelby, he was mayor of Cherryville, and he was always a very professional and kind and great man who the town will dearly miss. And I offer this statement in his memory and in honor of him. And Mr. President, if it would please the body, I would humbly ask that we adjourn in memory of former Cherryville Mayor Bob Austell.
Mr. President,
Senator Sorry, for what purpose do you rise?
for a personal privilege.
You have the floor.
Mr. President, today is a special day. It is the 100th anniversary of the founding of Novo Nordisk, which has been a tremendous community partner here in North Carolina, especially in my home district of Johnston County. In 1921, the insulin medication was discovered by a team of Canadian researchers, and 2 years later, Novo Nordisk set up shop after a husband and wife couple took it back to Denmark. And since then, Novo has evolved into a company that produces over 50% of the world's supply of insulin. 35 million people rely on its products worldwide, and has made a tremendous multi-billion-dollar commitment, employing over 1,900 people in Johnston County. Beyond being a corporation that's employing people and providing products, it's a worldwide community leader in access to health care and encouraging people to have a healthier lifestyle. It provides low-cost insulin to communities and governments and families around the world. It partners with governments and different institutions to make sure that childhood obesity is combated and taken care of, and has the unique goal of attempting to eradicate the condition that its medication attempts to treat. There are a lot of people here who are part of this program years and years ago, but in Johnston County, we've really benefited from their presence. They have donated land and equipment to create a unique public-private partnership with our Workforce Development Center in Johnston Community College that's trained thousands and thousands of students to have a better life and a better career. And I know that our community, without a doubt, is better off because of Novo's investment, its time, and its commitment. So on today, this very day actually, 100 years ago, Novo Nordisk was created, and I'm deeply thankful for their involvement in Johnston County in North Carolina, and I look forward to their partnership for another century. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Woodard, for what purpose do you rise?
Moment of personal privilege.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to join Senator Sawrey in congratulating Novo Nordisk on its 100th anniversary. And I want to thank Novo and celebrate its work both in Johnston and Durham counties and for the great jobs it provides to the residents of this region. From the scientists on the lab bench who are doing pioneering research, to the manufacturing jobs, to the men and women who ship these products all around the world. Novo consistently is ranked as one of the best places to work almost every year in every poll that you see, and they provide great quality jobs. But in addition to that, they have been a great corporate citizen. Senator Sawrey mentioned the great work they've done in Johnston County, and in Durham County we are extremely proud and grateful for a significant gift Novo made to Durham Technical Community College last month, $6 million, which is the largest gift in the college's history, which will upfit our new life sciences building and provide critical support for our life sciences curriculum, which will keep the workforce pipeline going to continue providing critical jobs for our life sciences industry here in North Carolina. So for all their great work as a corporation, for the economic impact that they have, I'd like to thank them. But as I always do when we talk about our pharmaceutical and life science industries, I want to thank them for saving lives, because for 100 years they have saved hundreds of millions of lives all across the world. And like Senator Sawrey, I look forward to the next 100 years of great medicine that they're going to provide.
Senator Jackson, for what purpose do you rise?
Moment of personal privilege, Mr. President.
You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Members, I want to join my colleagues, Senator Woodard and Senator Sawrey, in saying happy birthday. This is a great company, folks. They do things the right way. I've worked with them for 10 years on many issues that have come up, and they have always handled it with at the topmost ethics that you can involve. And they are a great corporate citizen, as Senator Woodard has spoken, and as Senator Sawrey has said. You know, they have done so much for not only Durham area, the Clayton area, but all of eastern North Carolina in the jobs they have created, good paying jobs. And we know they're providing a valuable product that hopefully few of us in here need, but if we do, we know it is available. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents worth in and say happy birthday. Thank you.
Any others? Is there further business to come before the Senate? If not, Senator Berger is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn in memory of former Mayor Bob Austell of Cherryville. That the Senate do now adjourn, subject to the provisions of Senate Rule 24.1, to reconvene on Monday, February the 20th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Members, the